This show is part of One Place, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to our daily legal and crime roundup. We are diving into 10 major stories from across the country today, bringing you the latest developments from the courtroom to the streets.
A Hawaii doctor's wife testifies about a Cliffside attack.
A father is sentenced for a fatal garage ambush.
A Michigan mother receives life for denying cancer care.
A Utah nurse is convicted in her friend's death.
2 Florida teens face charges for a murder plot.
Road rage in Arizona leads to a fatal collision.
A Virginia father is sentenced after his son's death.
An Illinois man is charged for a fatal arson.
A Tennessee parolee kills a woman in a chase.
2 suspects are arrested for ambushing a D.C. officer.
Starting in Hawaii today. In a chilling courtroom scene in Hawaii, Arielle Koenig took the stand exactly 1 year after she says her husband, anesthesiologist Gerhard Koenig, tried to kill her. The couple was hiking the Polipuka Trail for her birthday when the alleged attack occurred. Arielle testified that after she refused to take a selfie near a cliff's edge, her husband grabbed her forcibly and began pushing her toward the drop. She described a terrifying struggle where he allegedly tried to stab her with a syringe and then repeatedly bashed her head with a rock while telling her she was done.
The defense is painting a very different picture, claiming Arielle was the aggressor after being confronted about an affair. However, a nurse who witnessed the aftermath testified to seeing Arielle covered in blood. Perhaps the most damning evidence presented by prosecutors is a phone call Gerhard made to his son shortly after the incident. While the defense calls it a goodbye message from a suicidal man, the prosecution argues it was a clear confession. They say he told his son he tried to kill Arielle, but she got away. The doctor now faces second-degree attempted murder charges as the trial continues.
Now to California. A heartbreaking case out of Hayward, California, has reached a conclusion with the sentencing of 36-year-old Von Boatner. Boatner was sentenced to 35 years in prison after pleading no contest to voluntary manslaughter and attempted murder. The charges stem from a May 2023 incident where Boatner slid under a partially open garage door to attack his ex-girlfriend, Monique Aldridge, and her new boyfriend. Tragically, Aldridge was shot in the head and killed while her 5-year-old son was in the next room watching a movie. The boyfriend survived despite being shot in the face and losing part of his jaw during the ambush.
The details of the child's experience are particularly haunting. Court testimony revealed the boy asked if his mom was okay as the violence unfolded. Prosecutors noted that the attack happened just days after Aldridge discovered she was pregnant with her new boyfriend's child. Boatner had reportedly been arguing with Aldridge over their son's safety before the shooting. After the attack, Boatner fled to Seattle, where he was eventually apprehended. While the initial murder and child abuse charges were dropped as part of a plea deal, the 35-year sentence ensures he will remain behind bars for decades for the devastation he caused that night.
Moving to Michigan. In Michigan, a mother has been sentenced to life without parole for what a judge described as the intentional and egregious neglect of her teenage son. 43-year-old Elizabeth Dubois was convicted of felony murder and first-degree child abuse in the death of 19-year-old Austin Raymond. Austin suffered for years from chordoma, a rare but treatable form of bone cancer. Despite a visible lump on his neck and his inability to eat solid food, Dubois repeatedly told him he was fine and refused to seek medical care. By the time he died in 2019, the young man weighed only 83 pounds and had suffered immensely.
The prosecution highlighted that Austin had actually testified against his mother before his death, detailing how his pleas for help were ignored. Even when Child Protective Services intervened and ordered her to seek care, it was other relatives who finally took him to doctors. Experts testified that the cancer was potentially curable if it had been addressed when the symptoms first appeared in 2016. Dubois offered various excuses, including a lack of time and money, but the jury found her actions rose to the level of murder. Judge Michael Nolan denied a request to set aside the verdict, ensuring she will spend her life in prison.
Next in Utah. A Utah jury has found nurse Megan Sundwall guilty of manslaughter and obstruction of justice in the death of her friend, Casey Lynn Terry. The case is bizarre, as Terry had spent years lying to everyone, including Sundwall, claiming she had terminal cancer. An autopsy later proved she was perfectly healthy. Terry also fabricated a story about a $1.5 million life insurance policy with Sundwall as the beneficiary. Prosecutors argued that Sundwall provided the fatal dose of insulin that killed Terry, while the defense maintained that Terry took her own life after frequently threatening to do so. The jury ultimately opted for the lesser manslaughter charge.
The deliberation lasted 10 hours over 2 days before the verdict was reached. While Sundwall avoided an aggravated murder conviction, the manslaughter and obstruction charges still carry a potential sentence of up to 15 years. The trial focused heavily on whether Sundwall actively participated in the death or if she was a victim of Terry's elaborate deceptions. The lack of any actual insurance policy added a layer of confusion to the motive. But the jury was convinced Sundwall played a criminal role in the insulin overdose. Her sentencing is set for May 4th, which will finally bring some closure to this strange and tragic series of events.
Shifting to Florida. Disturbing new details have emerged in the case of 2 Florida teenagers accused of plotting to murder a classmate. 15-year-old Isabel Valdez allegedly wrote an apology letter to her parents, which was found in her backpack. In the note, she described herself as disgusting and cruel, claiming she had known something was wrong with her since she was a child. She apologized for what she was about to do, and mentioned Adam Lanza, the Sandy Hook shooter. Valdez and her 14-year-old friend, Lois Lippert, were arrested after an anonymous tip alerted police to their plan to kill a student who allegedly reminded Valdez of Lanza.
The plot reportedly involved a blood ritual and specific plans to carry out the killing at Lake Brantley High School. Prosecutors say the girls even laughed about their plans in recorded conversations. Despite the chilling nature of the letter and the evidence, both girls have pleaded not guilty. They are being charged as adults due to the severity of the conspiracy. The letter provides a dark window into Valdez's mindset, where she claimed to hate people and felt that being forced to socialize was torture. This case has shocked the Altamonte Springs community as the legal process moves forward for these 2 young defendants.
Now to Arizona. In Chandler, Arizona, a 29-year-old man named Gustavo Elias is facing second-degree murder charges after a fatal road rage incident. Elias allegedly used his Chevrolet Tahoe to mow down 21-year-old Desjon Hamilton, an expectant father who was riding a motorcycle. Elias claimed that Hamilton had been taunting him by revving his engine, both on the road and previously at a Walmart. Shockingly, Elias had 2 children in his SUV at the time of the crash, leading to additional charges of reckless child abuse. Police say Elias admitted to consuming 12 beers and using cocaine before getting behind the wheel and chasing Hamilton down.
Witnesses and the children in the vehicle described a high-speed confrontation that ended when Elias pulled alongside the motorcycle and struck it. The impact was so severe that Hamilton was killed. Investigators noted that both men lived in the same apartment complex and had a history of minor disputes. Elias told police through a translator that Hamilton would often speed through their parking lot. However, the decision to pursue the motorcycle at high speeds while intoxicated has led to severe criminal consequences. Elias remains in custody as the community mourns the loss of a young man who was just about to start a family.
Next, in Virginia. A Virginia man, Sincere Croxton, has been sentenced to 20 years in prison following the death of his 2-year-old son, CJ. The toddler died with cocaine in his system and was found living in appalling conditions at an Econo Lodge. Investigators discovered that the boy had been kept in a pack-and-play that also contained a reptile cage with snakes. CJ tested positive for salmonella, a disease often carried by reptiles, but his parents refused medical treatment for him. The boy also suffered from untreated sickle cell disease. When police searched the hotel room, they found 70 grams of cocaine and a gun in a clothes hamper.
The judge in the case was blunt, stating that the boy's living situation inevitably killed him, and that the father's actions were a series of choices, not an accident. Child Protective Services had tried to investigate the family previously, but Croxton moved them frequently to avoid detection. The boy's mother, Kalea Coleman, was also sentenced to 15 years for her role in the neglect. Despite Croxton's claims that he loved his son dearly, the evidence of drug use and medical neglect was overwhelming. This tragic case highlights the devastating impact of parental negligence and the challenges faced by social services when families go off the grid.
Moving to Illinois. In Chicago, 27-year-old Sheaves Slate is facing first-degree murder and arson charges after a fire he allegedly set killed veteran firefighter Michael Altman. Prosecutors say Slate set fire to a mattress in the boiler room of an apartment building where he had been staying illegally. Before the fire, Slate reportedly threatened residents, telling them they were going to pay after they tried to keep him out of the building. He allegedly blocked the door to the boiler room to conceal the flames, which delayed the discovery of the fire. When firefighters arrived, the structure above the boiler room collapsed, leading to the death of the 32-year-old firefighter.
The details of the incident are infuriating for the local community. Slate had been seen in restricted areas of the building for days, and a 911 call regarding his presence was canceled just hours before the fire began. Surveillance footage captured him entering the basement through a broken window. By failing to warn anyone or call for help, Slate allowed the fire to become a death trap for the first responders. Michael Altman was a dedicated member of the Chicago Fire Department, and his death has sparked a wave of mourning. Slate now faces the full weight of the law for his retaliatory and reckless actions.
Now to Tennessee. A tragic high-speed chase in Nashville has claimed the life of 23-year-old Oluwaleyomi Federo. The suspect, 52-year-old Ray Eugene Paget, was out on parole when he allegedly stole a Ford F-250 from a car lot. The owner of the lot tracked him, but Paget rammed the owner's vehicle and fled. He then rammed an unmarked police SUV before leading authorities on a chase reaching speeds of 80 miles per hour. While driving on the wrong side of the road, Paget violently struck Federo's sedan as she was attempting to turn into her neighborhood. The collision sent both vehicles 100 yards into a ditch, killing the young woman.
Paget, who has at least 20 prior criminal convictions, now faces charges of vehicular homicide by recklessness and attempted criminal homicide. The aerial footage of the crash site showed the massive pickup truck lodged into the driver's side of the small sedan, illustrating the sheer force of the impact. It is a devastating example of a repeat offender causing irreparable harm while out on parole. Federo was just moments away from her home when her life was cut short. Paget is currently being held on an $805,000 bond as the Nashville community grapples with the loss of a promising young woman in such a violent manner.
Finally, in D.C. 2 suspects have been arrested in Washington, D.C., following the ambush and shooting of a U.S. Park police officer. The incident occurred on Monday evening when at least 2 officers were driving in an unmarked white Tesla as part of an ongoing investigation. 2 gunmen allegedly targeted the vehicle, shooting 1 officer in the shoulder. The wounded officer managed to keep driving to a safe location to receive first aid before being airlifted to a hospital. 21-year-old Darren Foster and 22-year-old Ashele Foster have both been charged with assault on a federal police officer. The motive for the targeted ambush remains under investigation by local and federal authorities.
The shooting has drawn attention from high-level officials, including FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi, who both pledged full support for the investigation. While the officer has since been discharged from the hospital, the brazen nature of an ambush on law enforcement in the nation's capital has raised significant concerns. It is still unclear if the suspects knew they were targeting police officers given the unmarked nature of the vehicle, but officials have stated the officer was definitely targeted. As the legal proceedings begin for the 2 suspects, the focus remains on ensuring the safety of officers operating in high-risk environments throughout the District of Columbia.
That wraps up our briefing for today. Thank you for joining us for this look at the latest legal developments. We will be back tomorrow with another update on the stories you follow.